There is a country where the oldest rock on Earth breaks through the jungle canopy, where the world's tallest waterfall dissolves before it reaches the ground, and where lightning fires across the same lake more than 160 nights a year. Most people hear Venezuela and think of crisis. The landscape has not heard. This is a country shaped by extremes that have nothing to do with politics. Sand dunes shift daily across a desert that shares a border with the Caribbean. Flooded grasslands the size of entire nations compress thousands of species around shrinking waterholes each dry season. A capital city of 6 million sits in a valley so narrow it could only grow upward, pressed between mountains and sea. From 2-billion-year-old stone to coral atolls, where the water clarity reaches 200 feet, Venezuela's geography has outlasted every headline written about it. This is what remains. In the southeast of Venezuela, where the borders of Brazil and Guyana converge, a landscape unlike anything else in South America rises from the jungle floor. Flat-topped mountains, known as tepuis, stand isolated above the lowlands, their sheer sandstone cliffs dropping 3,000 feet to the canopy below. The rock is Precambrian sandstone, formed approximately 1.8 billion years ago, when multicellular life had not yet appeared on Earth. Over 100 tepuis are scattered across the Gran Sabana, a high plateau of rolling grassland, rivers stained dark by tannins, and waterfalls that pour from ledges with no warning. The Pemon people, indigenous to this region, named these formations tepuis, a word that translates as House of the Gods. The summit ecosystems are among the most isolated on the planet. Cut off from the lowlands by vertical walls of stone, each tepui has developed its own endemic species over millions of years of separation. Carnivorous plants, black algae, and organisms found nowhere else on Earth survive on surfaces scoured by wind and rain, at altitudes where clouds settle for weeks without lifting. The largest and most accessible of the tepuis is Mount Roraima, rising to 9,200 feet at the triple border point of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana. Its flat summit spans roughly 31 square kilometers, a plateau of eroded rock formations, natural pools of rainwater, and quartz crystals embedded in blackened stone. The edges drop vertically on all sides. Clouds frequently obscure the summit entirely, leaving the mountain visible only as a dark wall disappearing upward into gray. When Arthur Conan Doyle published The Lost World in 1912, he based his fictional plateau on reports from early expeditions to Roraima. The novel imagined dinosaurs surviving on the summit. The reality is stranger. Life forms so specialized that they exist in populations measured in square meters, adapted to conditions of constant moisture, high ultraviolet exposure, and nutrient-poor soil. The summit receives over 400 centimeters of rainfall per year, and much of it flows off the edges in waterfalls that evaporate before reaching the base. 1,200 kilometers to the northwest, the landscape inverts. The Médanos de Coro is a desert of approximately 350 square miles on the Paraguaná Peninsula, where sand dunes rise to heights of 130 feet and are reshaped continuously by the northeast trade winds. This is the only true desert ecosystem in northern South America. The sand is fine, pale, and almost entirely devoid of vegetation. Temperatures on the dune surfaces regularly exceed 40 degrees Celsius. The dunes migrate, advancing, retreating, burying fence posts and road markers at rates determined by seasonal wind patterns. The area sits within a UNESCO World Heritage Buffer Zone, adjacent to the colonial city of Coro, one of the oldest European settlements on the South American mainland. Where the Gran Sabana holds rock that has not moved in nearly 2 billion years, the Médanos hold sand that will not be in the same place tomorrow. One landscape is defined by permanence, the other by its absence, and both exist within the same national border. Between stone and sand, the water falls. From the edge of Tepuis, the largest of the Gran Sabana's table mountains, water drops into open air and does not touch solid ground for 2,600 feet. Angel Falls is the tallest waterfall on Earth, with a total height of 3,200 feet. Measured from the rim of the tepuis to the base of the plunge pool below. The falls were named after Jimmy Angel, an American bush pilot who crash-landed his Flamingo monoplane on the summit of Tepuis in 1937 while searching for a gold deposit. The aircraft remained on the summit for over 30 years before being recovered and placed in a museum. The Pemon people had known the falls long before Angel's arrival. Their name for it, Kerepakupai Meru, translates roughly as waterfall of the deepest place. The volume of the falls depends entirely on rainfall across Tepuis' summit, which spans approximately 257 square miles. During the wet season, from June through December, the falls form a continuous column of white water visible from kilometers away, the sound audible long before the falls themselves come into view. During the dry months, the flow thins to a narrow veil, and much of the water atomizes into mist before reaching the base. The height is so great that gravity alone cannot deliver the water intact. Below Angel Falls, the water that reaches the ground collects into tributaries feeding the Churun River, which flows southwest into Canaima Lagoon. The lagoon stretches nearly 2 miles across its surface colored a deep rose brown by tannins leached from the surrounding vegetation. Multiple waterfalls cascade directly into the lagoon from low cliffs on its perimeter, each carrying the same tannin-stained water. Sapo Falls, one of the widest, allows visitors to walk behind the curtain of water along a rocky ledge, the falls pouring over the path in a continuous sheet. The water is warm and soft. The lagoon sits within Canaima National Park, a protected area of roughly 12,000 square miles, larger than the entire country of Belgium. From Canaima, the water continues northeast through the Caroni River system, a network that extends 590 miles before joining the Orinoco. Every drop that falls from Angel Falls eventually reaches the same destination. The Orinoco is the third largest river system in South America, after the Amazon and the Parana. It stretches over 1,300 miles from its source near the Brazilian border to the Atlantic coast, draining a basin of roughly 390,000 square miles, approximately 65% of Venezuela's total landmass. Nearly every major river in the country feeds into it. The Orinoco's most unusual feature is the Cassiquiare Canal, a natural waterway that branches off the upper Orinoco and flows south into the Rio Negro. Creating a permanent connection between the Orinoco and Amazon basins. This is the largest natural canal on Earth, and it means that a fish, or a canoe, can travel from the mouth of the Orinoco to the mouth of the Amazon without leaving fresh water. The river carries an estimated 1.1 trillion cubic feet of water to the Atlantic each year, a volume that stains the ocean brown for miles offshore. The sediment it deposits has been building the coastline eastward for millennia. The rivers carry everything south into a delta where land becomes water. Where the Orinoco River meets the Atlantic Ocean, it does not end in a single mouth. The river fragments into hundreds of channels spread across a delta of more than 15,000 square miles, one of the largest river deltas in the world. The terrain is remarkably flat, rising only a few feet above sea level across its entire breadth. Dense mangrove forests line the waterways, their root systems creating a submerged architecture that supports fish nurseries, crab populations, and wading birds in concentrations difficult to count from above. The Warao people, whose name translates as people of the canoe, have built their entire civilization on this water. Stilt houses stand above the channels, connected by boardwalks and accessed exclusively by boat. There are no roads in the Orinoco Delta. Transport, trade, food gathering, and social life all take place on water. The Warao harvest the moriche palm for food, shelter, fiber, and fermented drink, extracting nearly everything they need from a single species adapted to permanent flooding. South of the delta, the dense jungle canopy gives way to something unexpected. Los Llanos is a tropical grassland covering roughly a third of Venezuela's total landmass, a flat expanse of savanna interrupted by scattered trees, seasonal rivers, and shallow lakes that appear and vanish with the rains. During the wet season, from May through November, the Llanos flood almost entirely. Water covers the grassland to depths of several feet, transforming the plain into an inland sea. When the dry season arrives, the water retreats, compressing every living thing toward the remaining pools and river channels. This seasonal compression produces one of the highest concentrations of visible wildlife in South America. Anacondas coil in the shallows. Spectacled caimans line the banks in rows. Scarlet ibis, jabiru storks, and hundreds of other bird species gather in flocks so dense they color the sky. The Llanos functions as a natural amplifier, a landscape that forces abundance into view by removing the water that normally hides it. The most visible animal in the Llanos is the capybara, the largest living rodent on Earth. Adults reach 4 feet in length and weigh up to 150 pounds. They are semi-aquatic, with partially webbed feet and eyes and nostrils positioned high on the head, allowing them to remain almost entirely submerged while still breathing and watching for predators. Capybaras live in groups of 10 to 30 individuals, grazing on aquatic grasses along riverbanks and lake edges. They spend hours in water, often with birds perched on their backs, picking parasites from their coarse fur. In the Llanos, they are a keystone prey species. Their population sustains jaguars, anacondas, caimans, and large birds of prey. Where capybaras gather in numbers, the jaguar follows. The largest cat in the Americas, males can reach 250 pounds, with a bite force proportionally stronger than any other big cat, powerful enough to crack the shells of river turtles and puncture the skulls of caimans. Jaguars in Venezuela's Llanos are solitary and territorial, patrolling ranges that follow water sources and prey concentrations through the seasonal cycle. Unlike African big cats that hunt in open grassland, jaguars are ambush predators, using the dense vegetation along waterways as cover. Venezuela's jaguar population is concentrated in Los Llanos, the southern Amazon border region, and the lowlands surrounding Canaima. Habitat loss continues to reduce their range, but in the flooded grasslands, they remain, patient, unseen until the moment they are not. Far to the west, a lake generates its own lightning. In the northwest of Venezuela, behind a narrow strait connecting it to the Gulf of Venezuela, Lake Maracaibo covers 5,100 square miles, the largest lake in South America, and one of the oldest on Earth, formed by tectonic activity over 36 million years ago. The Rafael Urdaneta Bridge spans the strait at a length of 5 miles, completed in 1962, and still one of the longest concrete bridges in the world. But the lake is known less for its size than for what happens above it after dark. Where the southern shore meets the foothills of the Andes, warm, moist air rising from the lake's surface collides nightly with cooler air descending from the mountains. The result is Catatumbo lightning, persistent electrical storms that occur up to 160 nights per year. Producing dozens of strikes per minute in concentrated bursts that illuminate the clouds in near continuous pulses. The storms are visible from as far as 250 miles away, and for centuries, they served as a natural navigation beacon for ships entering the Gulf of Venezuela. The phenomenon is driven entirely by geography. The specific combination of lake surface temperature, mountain altitude, and prevailing wind patterns exists nowhere else in exactly this configuration. South of Maracaibo, the land begins to climb. The Venezuelan Andes rise sharply from the lake basin into the Cordillera de Mérida, and above 10,000 feet, the forests give way to páramo, a high-altitude ecosystem of mist, cold grassland, and a plant found almost nowhere else. Frailejones, members of the genus Espelecia, grow at a rate of roughly 1 centimeter per year. Their thick, silver-green leaves are covered in fine hairs that trap moisture from the clouds that settle permanently at this elevation. Individual plants can live for several centuries, reaching heights of over 4 meters, and they function as natural water collectors, channeling condensation downward into the soil that feeds the rivers below. The Cordillera continues upward to Pico Bolívar, Venezuela's highest point at 16,332 feet. The city of Mérida sits at approximately 5,300 feet on the valley floor below, a university city surrounded by agricultural terraces and cloud forest. Above the tree line, the rock is bare. Venezuela's last glacier,
The Humboldt on the neighboring peak of Pico Humboldt was officially downgraded to an ice field in 2024 after decades of retreat. Venezuela became the first Andean nation to lose all of its glacial ice. The summit of Pico Bolivar offers a view that extends, on clear days, from the lake basin to the north to the jungle lowlands of the south. The full vertical range of a country measured not in borders, but in altitude. The Andes descend toward a coast no one expected.
Approximately 80 miles north of the Venezuelan mainland, an archipelago of roughly 350 islands, cays, and sandbars sits in water so clear that the bottom is visible at depths exceeding 200 feet. Los Roques has been a national park since 1972 and is the largest marine protected area in the Caribbean Sea. The barrier reef system surrounding the archipelago shelters a lagoon of shallow turquoise water that stretches for miles between the islands. The permanent population is under 2,000, concentrated on the island of Gran Roque, the only one with an airstrip. Most of the other islands have no structures at all, just sand, low scrub, and nesting seabirds. There are no cars on the majority of the islands. Transport is by fishing boat or small launch. The isolation has kept the reefs in condition that has deteriorated elsewhere in the Caribbean. The coral cover still dense enough to support parrotfish, nurse sharks, and green sea turtles in numbers that were once common across the region. West along the coast, in the state of Falcón, Morrocoy National Park covers approximately 124 square miles of mangrove channels, coral cays, and protected lagoons. The waters are shallower and warmer than at Los Roques, the mangrove nurseries supporting juvenile fish populations that feed the offshore reefs. Small, sandy keys with coconut palms sit scattered across the park, accessible by boat from the mainland town of Tucacas. Before the economic crisis, Morrocoy was one of the most visited national parks in Venezuela, its proximity to major cities making it a weekend destination for families across the central states. The infrastructure has since declined. Docks weathered, services reduced. But the water remains the same pale green it has been since before the first boat arrived. Further east, Margarita Island covers roughly 390 square miles off the northeastern coast. The largest island in Venezuelan territory. A mountainous spine runs through the interior, reaching 3,200 feet at its highest point, and the eastern and western halves of the island are connected by a narrow isthmus containing La Restinga, a mangrove-filled lagoon designated as a national park. Pearl fishing sustained the island's economy for centuries. Spanish colonists established it as a pearl trading center in the 1500s, and free port status later made it a destination for Caribbean tourism. Hotels, casinos, and shopping centers were built to accommodate international visitors. The visitors have largely gone. The infrastructure remains, fading gradually in the salt air. The beaches still white, the mountains still green. The duty-free shops still open, but quieter than their architects intended. South of Margarita, across a shallow channel, Isla de Coche sits low and flat against the horizon. The island covers roughly 21 square miles and has a permanent population of under 12,000. The climate is arid, the vegetation sparse, and the trade winds blow with enough consistency to make the island one of the best kitesurfing locations in the Caribbean. Salt pans on the island's western shore have been harvested for generations, the white, crystalline flats visible from the air as geometric patterns cut into the coastline. Where Margarita was built for tourism, Coche was not built for anything in particular. It continues as it has, small, wind-scoured, and largely unnoticed. Behind the beaches, a city holds 6 million stories. Set within a narrow mountain valley at approximately 3,000 feet above sea level, Caracas is the capital and largest city of Venezuela. The Caribbean coast lies just a few miles to the north, separated by the steep ridges of the Cordillera de la Costa. A barrier that has shaped the city's development since its founding in 1567. The valley is roughly 15 miles long and 2 miles wide. With a metropolitan population exceeding 5 million, Caracas could not expand outward. It grew upward instead. Modernist towers from the oil boom era of the 1950s and 1970s, including the twin Parque Central towers, once the tallest buildings in South America, stand alongside colonial plazas and commercial districts compressed into one of the highest urban densities on the continent. Six-lane highways built during the petroleum years cut through the valley floor, connecting districts that are separated by minutes in distance and decades in architecture. When the valley floor filled, the city climbed the hillsides. Informal settlements known as barrios cover the steep slopes surrounding central Caracas, housing an estimated 50% of the metropolitan population. The structures are self-built, stacked vertically on gradients too steep for planned development. Concrete block walls, corrugated roofing, and exposed rebar create a dense patchwork of color rising hundreds of meters above the formal city below. Inside the barrios, complex economies operate. Small businesses, transport networks, community organizations, functioning largely independent of the infrastructure in the valley. Directly north of the city, El Ávila National Park rises to peaks of 9,000 feet, forming a green wall visible from nearly every street in Caracas. The park covers over 100 square miles of cloud forest, its trails connecting the valley to the Caribbean coast on the other side. For residents of the city, El Ávila functions as both boundary and escape. The mountain that stops the city from reaching the sea, and the open space that makes the density below bearable. On clear mornings, the peak of Naiguatá is visible from the barrios, a line of green above the concrete. On the southern slope of the coastal range, at an elevation of 6,000 feet, a village appears that does not belong to its surroundings. Colonia Tovar was founded in 1843 by settlers from the Kaiserstuhl region of Baden, Germany, and its architecture has been preserved almost entirely. Half-timbered houses with steep pitched roofs designed for snow that never falls, flower boxes in Alpine style, and a church modeled on a Bavarian original. The German dialect brought by the original settlers survived for over a century before gradually blending with Spanish. Today, the village operates as a weekend destination for residents of Caracas, its market selling strawberries, German-style sausages, and locally brewed beer at an altitude where the temperature rarely exceeds 20 degrees Celsius. The roofs are built for a climate that exists 8,000 kilometers away. And they have endured for nearly 2 centuries in a climate that did not ask for them. The oldest rock on Earth still breaks through the canopy. The tallest waterfall still falls. The lightning over Maracaibo still fires more than 160 nights a year. Illuminating the same lake it has illuminated for longer than anyone has been counting. Venezuela's geography does not operate on the timescale of headlines. The tepuis were ancient before the first human being set foot on them. The Orinoco was carrying 1 trillion cubic feet of water to the sea before the first city was built on its banks. The sand dunes at Coro will shift again tonight, as they shifted last night, and as they will shift long after every current argument has been forgotten. Most people hear Venezuela and think of crisis. The landscape has not heard. It is not listening. It does not need to.